Welcome everyone. In name of Live Innovation Lab, I'm gonna start right now. I'm gonna start with the technicalities. I'm gonna explain a little bit about the platform for everyone. You have the opportunity to send us messages using the chat. There is also an feature to send direct messages to different attendees. In case that you have any connectivity problem, please send me a direct message. My name is Paula Mertens. You will find me as a host. Then there is an option, will you find it at the bottom of your screen. You can choose and switch, if you are having connectivity problems, switch to low bandwidth. And one thing that always works is to refresh. Then you will upload again the platform and we'll have better connection. Then you can see at the right side of your panel, you have a raise hand. That is a function that we are going to use when we give the participants the opportunity to ask questions and join us virtually in the main stage. So you can raise your hand and then we will give you access to the panel. You have to activate your microphone, and if you want, you can also activate your camera. There is also the possibility in the questions that you can upvote any question if it's your preference. Then we start with the most popular question. And what else that you have? Then please let me know if you have any problems. And then I will give the word to Maria, who is going to share the presentation that you know how it's going to be this evening.
Hi, everyone. I'll be your moderator tonight. It's true, I'm going to share the presentation, but actually it's Yara who will tell us a little bit more about what Live Innovation Lab is. And very, very quickly, we'll give you a few cues to how to enjoy tonight, these couple of hours that we have ahead of us. So I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to start sharing the presentation, and I'll let Yara take the word from here. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're very happy that you are joining us this afternoon. And you may be wondering what Live Innovation Lab is. We are a non-for-profit organization which core mission is to democratize innovation. We believe that innovation should happen in every field, not only in the technical field. So we aim to bridge the gap between the technical field and the humanity fields. We believe that the next breakthrough innovations are going to be when we learn to combine the tech with art and science with humanity. So that's our core mission. We regularly host events like this and before in person, where we help people connect, exchange ideas, but also learn about the innovation, what innovation is, the mindsets and process needed for innovating. We also want to empower everyone to innovate, because we have firmly believe that everyone has all the capabilities they need to innovate. So we want to help you train your innovation muscle, and that's our mission. So we're very happy that you're here. We are dedicated to innovation, and innovation might be very broad. So we have certain areas of innovations that we cover. One of them is the woman in innovation. That's why we have the panel. We want to also bridge the gender gap by providing a space where more women can be showcased and come into the innovation field. We also have innovation and entrepreneurship. What is the innovation DNA that we all need? Social innovation. We believe that sustainability is core and must be core or part of innovation. So that's one of our key areas as well. Business, science and technology, art, media and design, and of course, as I mentioned, women in innovation. So if we go to our code of conduct, we want to have a safe space here where everyone can share their opinions. So please be respectful to each other. We want to be positive, so we frame the things in a positive way. And we know that technology not always is the easiest. So we want you to embrace the moment and enjoy the technology to the greatest extent possible. So with that, I leave the space for Maria, who will moderate the panel.
Thank you. I'm back. So the first thing I'd like to do, I seem to have lost my camera, is to actually thank every one of our panelists for being here tonight and taking the time to share with us their thoughts around innovation and around being pioneers in the areas of innovation as women, which is not always the easiest. To start, we have asked each of the panelists to present herself in 3 minutes, if possible. So we're going to make this around in alphabetical order. So I will invite now Arleta. No, sorry, Anna. I'm sorry. You see, I told you I was going to mess up the alphabet. Thank you, Anna, for turning your camera on. And please, you have the stage.
Thank you very much. Great to be here, and I really appreciate that you have this Lab Innovation Lab, and that you all the efforts that you make on this very important topic. I was now asked to say something about myself. I'm Anna. I live now in Braunschweig. I used to live in Munich, but then I decided to shift company to a company called Northvolt. We manufacture batteries. So we are planning to build one factory here in Braunschweig for Volkswagen. Before that, I used to work on quite large companies, but and also automotive companies. And I went from like a typical engineer to being really passionate about sustainable transportation, and that was also the reason I shifted to this company, Northvolt. It was a big change coming from a large company to a company that had 2 employees. So I've been here the last year, building up the company. So we went from 2 employees to around 150 now, hiring a lot of people and making sure that we have a good company culture. And of course, very focused on innovation, making sure that we build the best batteries, the greenest batteries, and yeah. I'm responsible for the software side, so my part of this is to make sure that we track where the materials are coming from, making sure that we have all the data on the batteries. Yeah, so this is my contribution on this topic, innovation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this about yourself. Now we're going to move on to Arleta. If you can please share with us who you are and what you've pioneered in.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you so much for this chance to present and to talk about innovation. My name is Aletta Korf, and I'm heading the innovation department and the innovation board GSA at Sony Music Entertainment in Munich and Berlin. At the moment, Berlin. Yeah, for me, the most beautiful innovations of all is music, which is why my way led me to this panel, let's say this panel also, to the music industry. And yeah, since we are talking about this branch, my team and I focus on new methods, ways, products within the music industry, so for artists and partners, but also for our employees to improve their daily business. We also create new initiatives to enhance the company's creativity, its innovation culture, and the company's efficiency. In the end, via knowledge exchange, internally and externally, workshops, and so on. Yeah, and the team consists of 11 different experts from different fields and departments of Sony Music GSA. Yeah, and all these experts make sure that teamwork makes sure that we are yeah, very diverse and able to yeah, make researches and to prove ideas and yeah, to make decisions in an innovative way. And yeah, we are in this role. We have so many roles to play. We are supporters, strategists. We are connector between internal and external experts, always with the higher aim to improve the company's efficiency, but also to make a deep footstep within the branch, but also the music industry. But in this field, the innovation culture and to strengthen it. And this is a very important work, I think. New work, always good. New is always better. And thank you very much for being here.
We look forward to hearing more about your specific experience during the panel. Now we'll give the word to Isabel. If you please could turn on your video and tell us more about the work you do.
I'm happy to do so. However, I seem to have lost where I turned the video on. So.
I think you have a small icon on the bottom. It should be red, but if you can't find it, that's okay. Just go on with audio.
Okay. Yeah, I cannot find the red button there. So I'm going to start with a question, actually, to everybody, to my fellow panelists or women sharing this panel, and also to our audience. Who has not been a patient? Everyone who has, you can continue with my next question, and it is, who has been nervous or stressed in the process of illness? So I am Isabel Nieto, and I am a senior key expert as part of the innovation community in Siemens Healthineers. And I am in the topic of how emotions and stress play a role in technology and in healthcare. I work with different teams. So I work in the marketing side, cross-functional teams, and I also work on the innovation projects, meaning engaging with R&D with other key experts who are developing future even diagnostic machines or even future offerings to think how can we address this point of emotions and stress and anxiety in healthcare. It has been a path of changing a mindset. So this is not, it's something I've done already for quite a number of years. And it's a process, right? It has been innovation as always is kind of taking more time, and it has been a process of changing a mindset because the technical part had been much more the focus before, and bringing this human side and even allowing the space for us to understand the human side being emotional side too, that are part of technology and are part of healthcare is something new. And that has been basically one of the things I've been working with in the company, inside the company, and then also bringing the voices of outside, the voices of patients, and connecting also with our partners, with healthcare providers, with hospitals, with healthcare institutions to really make the change together, because it's about making a change together in this topic. I am originally from Mexico City, and I live here in Erlangen in Germany since 7 years ago. So that's in short, more or less, where I am. And the rest you can read a little bit in the little script there.
Thank you for sharing, Isabel. Definitely something that is very much in everyone's mind right now is health. And I think that's pretty critical work that you're doing. So we look forward to hearing more about it, definitely, very soon. Now I'll give the word to Nadine. If Nadine, you could please. Yes, thank you. Hi. Please.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you, everyone, also for having me. I am super excited to be part of this. So my name is Nadine. I am heading the Entrepreneurship and Intrapreneurship Center at the University of the Federal Armed Forces here in Munich, Germany. So what we're doing is, on the one hand, also enhancing and enabling innovation, which really comes from the researchers that we have at the university, but also, on the other hand, to really give a push to maybe also elderly structures or older or more traditional structures is maybe the right word to put it, in terms of governmental institutions such as the Bundeswehr, so the German military, by giving them training and opportunities in terms of entrepreneurship. So really this double-handed approach to innovation from that side. For me personally, I've been working there for almost a year now. Before that, I have been working at another local university here in Munich, which was a bit bigger, with about 50,000 students coming to the university, the Ludwig-Maximilians University in Munich. I was running the educational programs for entrepreneurship at the Entrepreneurship Center there, and have done my PhD in entrepreneurship and management together with the Max Planck Institute for Innovation and Competition. For me, really, I was really flattered to being invited here for one reason, really to exchange with all of these inspirational people here on the panel, but also because it also made me kind of thinking again of why did I get into the whole entrepreneurship and innovation topic in the first place. And looking back at kind of my CV, I started my own business actually when I graduated from high school. Because actually it was a coincidence. I actually didn't find a job that was suiting my freelancer needs, if you want to say it that way or put it that way. So I started my own company first in the beginning with some marketing and promotional activities, and then turned that into, well, basically adding whatever I learned at university in terms of business administration. So I learned how to do consulting and office management, for example, and did that always aside from my studies. And after graduating with my bachelor's, I thought, okay, now I was ready for the real world. So let's go into the corporate environment, let's make some money, and let's just, be grown up maybe as well. But after being there for 1 year, I just figured on the one hand, okay, I'm more of the nerd type, I guess. So a bachelor's degree is not enough for me. I'm the kind of person who really needs to dig deeper into these topics. And on the other hand, I really felt that these corporate environments, for a bigger part, I would say, to stay politically correct, really make it really hard to innovate for the people within these organizations. And now at my current job, it's also more a passion and also more a startup than a job right now, because we just set the center up at the end of last year. And only now we can see the impact. So many people, so many researchers, also female researchers, see that we are doing these kind of things. We enable them. We kind of act as role models because we can also connect very many different stakeholders at one place, basically, and can enable this collaboration on the one hand, but also the exchange in the first place, which seems to be the crucial part as the beginning step in many cases from my point of view. Yeah, I think for now that's enough, and I'm looking forward to discussing with all of you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And now, last but not least, Silvia, please tell us more.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and giving the opportunity to exchange ideas with the panel. For me, I'm from the field of social innovation, and in many ways, for me, where I like to work in is really the social fabric, the structure. How do we work together? And maybe in my biography, I started really big, so I was very politically when I was in school and just leaving school. And one of the first things where I saw really, yes, we can change things, because sometimes I think with the social structure, we just feel, oh, this is the way that things are. And we actually had an initiative, and I was part of a big team, really, but they realized that the way in the city-state of Hamburg, the voting works, it was changed. So this is kind of like there's things where you can, so the voters had more options than just instead of just choosing and party. And over time, I realized, okay, but politically, these are so big groups of people, and I got more interested in sort of, okay, even if we just 10 or 15 people, how do we have social structures that help us work well together? And then over the years, I came to the point, okay, that really also asked the question, how do we bring ourselves individually into the conversation? And at the moment, I have different jobs. So I am a storyteller. I trained as a storyteller, and I perform. And with my performances, I try to inspire with stories where people feel that they can also follow these examples. And in my workshops, I hope to help people to be able to communicate what is really important to them and what they want to bring into the world. And then I also work as a trainer and coach and facilitator for collaboration. And at the Social Impact Lab in Munich, I support at the moment in a project for refugees and migrant startups. Let them know everything they need to know in order to start something in a foreign country that is called Germany and has a lot of rules and things they don't necessarily know from their original country. Yeah, so this is a big theme for me, and I'm really interested to talk with all of you about the opportunities and challenges that come along with trying to do and bring something new and innovate.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I also got my video working again from a different angle, but I think that's always good. I will actually ask the panelists to please turn their videos on, because as it happens in a normal panel, one of the nice things is to be able to gauge your expressions and see how you react to the other panelists. So that's always something that is really good. And in these weird times that we live now, we have to do it online. But I actually wanted to point out that we have a wonderful mix of women from very varied areas and that come from various parts of Germany. Like normally, when we do this kind of panels, people are here from around where we are. And in this case, because of the situation we're living right now, we can talk about it as an opportunity to have you all here today, which is really good. Just a quick note for the participants and the attendees. We will have about a 45-minute panel where I will ask some questions, we will discuss, but feel free to start adding questions. As Paula explained before, on the sidebar, there's an icon called questions, and there you can write what you're interested. If something strikes your fancy and you want to ask it now, please go ahead. You can upvote also the questions of the other attendees. So maybe read through the questions to make sure they're not being repeated. The most votes a question gets, the more possibilities we will actually answer it. And then we'll kick it off. If someone wants to interrupt me, please do. Otherwise, I start talking, and the idea is to hear you talk. I'm going to start with a very straightforward question, and not all of you have to answer, but all of you who want to answer can. I'd like to know what your definition of innovation is in your experience, what you've lived up until now. And we didn't really discuss if we were going to do this alphabetically, but I'm just going to go by, I don't know, gut feeling and say that Nadine looks like she wants to answer this question.
Thank you. Well, I think I'll give it a try. So for me, innovation is always this new thing, so some kind of invention, but in addition to the turning it into reality part, like the implementation, adaptation part, or making it available to somebody else. Because if I'm just sitting somewhere and being happy about whatever I invented, nobody can really leverage on it, and no problem in a bigger scale are solved. No kind of problem is solved here. So I think these are basically the components of the newness of the invention of something put together with the adaptation implementation part.
Thank you. I see Silvia nodding, so I'd like to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I would agree that I find it interesting. Sometimes people use innovative as this is more than creative in terms of it's more creative. But I really also agree with Nadine that it's more about the fact that you can be creative, you can have your little room where you make this beautiful invention, but if it doesn't find its way into the world, then it's not an innovation. It becomes an innovation by being used, by being part of society and people. Not necessarily, it doesn't need to be the whole society. You can also have an innovation in your company and then everyone in the company uses it, but it somehow needs to leave your little room of having the idea.
Yeah, that's a good point. How about Arleta? What do you think? What's innovation for you?
Yeah, the same. But I also want to add that, yeah, it depends on the environment. The environment can be able to, to be the best ground, or for a plant, for example, if the invention is a plant or a flower, it needs sort of, conditions like air, fresh air, and sun and water. And if there's nothing around that, you have to take care of it at first before you you expect the plant to grow. And that's sometimes a little bit difficult, but I think it's the first thing you have to think about when you have an idea. And innovation can be a new way, a new idea, but it also can be just a new method to go away the same way you have always been going on, but in a different way, and see different things. So in a business context, it's like process optimization, find new ways to work more efficiently.
Thank you. Anna, what about you? Do you think innovation is more of a method, more of a process, more a being creative?
I mean, in the context I've been during my career, it's mainly been product driven. It's starting to become more and more service oriented, I would say. Since I've been always working with technology and software. To me, innovation is kind of it's not something that is so uncommon. I would say that, if you look at the companies that I've been working for, they are filing thousands of patents per year. It's kind of the thing that we need to do in order to be competitive.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take, because we can see that depending on the field where you are, it can be, as you were saying, more product driven, or it can be about the processes. I, in particular, like something that Isabel said when she was presenting herself. You mentioned that innovation was about changing a mindset, and you did use the words innovation is a process. So I'd like to hear more about that in your definition of innovation.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I also agree with Anna. I mean, if you would ask my engineering side, of course, it's about a product. It's about the next MRI having a better experience. But the other part is shifting the way one looks at things. So this new idea is also about this mind shift. And then it also is then developed in itself to how one can implement it. So bring it into action as well. And it is I think it's a process too, because it's linked to creativity. It's linked and everybody's innovative. Everybody has a potential. No, let me correct. Everybody has the potential to be innovative because we are wired that way. But there needs to be this change, and the mind shift it needs work on it too.
That's a very good point. I like how you say that everyone has the potential to. In your experience, fellow panelists, do you think that it's harder or more challenging for a woman to be innovative? Is it or not? You can also say no, but I'd like to hear what you think about that in the context that you've been working in, and also if it's changed during the years you've been at work or in a professional setting. I did not actually say any name, and I'm like waiting for some of you to actually want to do it. If you don't say, I will pick someone.
I can go. So I was thinking in a way that when you want to be innovative, you need to bring something new, and something new always challenges the status quo. And I would say, as a woman, it still is a little bit more difficult to challenge the status quo in a lot of surroundings. Not everywhere, obviously, and I wouldn't. It's very individual. Also, I wouldn't say that every man has it easy or something. But it has this part of challenging the status quo that is maybe in a way sometimes easier, because as a woman that is already what we may know in a way, but it's also it can also be more challenging because you still have to find your place maybe in a team, or you have to prove yourself in an environment where there's more people, or they're not used to having women that much, so already being there is a bit of a challenging the status quo.
Is that the experience for everyone else? I'm thinking about Nadine in particular, because your experience, you mentioned the armed forces, and I know you might not work exclusively with women or men, but definitely it seems a male-oriented environment. Is that the case, and how is your experience in that sense?
Yeah, for the first part of the question, it's still definitely more male-dominated, the whole environment, at least from the student perspective. So just to give you a bit context, our university educates the officers for the military. So the ones who actually decide to stick with the military for the next 13 years in total are, well, the students basically. So that's the main difference for any other university to the University of the Federal Armed Forces. However, there are some civil students as well, and I think the gender gap is maybe not as big. And when we're talking about the entrepreneurship part, where we see innovation really happening in terms of a product, a service, or whatever it might be, that you might actually be able to buy in the long run or get somewhere. We see that mostly the researchers are the ones who are actually behind that and pushing it. And yes, I think there are still fewer women that actually take that step and go that way or that path to making, or to the second part of my innovation definition, to really like turning it into something that is then made available to everybody else. However, and this is also why I was kind of struggling to shoot out an answer right away to your initial question, because I don't see any difference in the presets basically. So I think men and women equally can be innovative, or are even innovative. The only thing that we're still lacking, and this is also what we see in the numbers, if we just look at the current German numbers, with 15.7, I think is the share of female founders in the German society. We are still not equal. So apparently somehow this enabling, or this kind of exploitation part of the innovative idea and the creativity basically is still lacking. So that's probably my take on that question.
That's a very good point. I wonder, it's just a thought. I wonder if in some ways we are a little bit more risk averse, which might be the case. I see, for example, Isabel saying yes, and I would like to hear your take on that.
I think there are two sides to the challenges. So one side is the external and one side is the internal. Of course, the external, you need to have an environment as a woman to be able to thrive, to show, to grow, to bring forward innovation. But the other side is also the internal side. And I say we always have in our sides, in ourselves, a victim, no? That we can fall in the role of the victim. We can fall in the role of a perfectionist. That's very often the case. I would say, no, it needs to be perfect. I cannot show it yet. And innovation, you just need to try and, of course, be used to the fact that you're going to get feedback, that it's going to be uncomfortable, that you need to train your nervous system to literally like be on the spot somehow. So I think there are two sides to it. One is, yes, external. The other, I think we are sometimes ourselves, our own blockers.
That's a very interesting insight, trying to understand the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivations to be innovative. I'd like to hear about Arleta. You work for an enormous company, and you know it's a pretty important role you have within the company. What's your impression of women in the innovation field? Are there do they push enough? Are there enough? Is it harder? Is it not? Is it just a matter of personality, who you are?
Yes, the last one. And no, at the same time, because we are not enough. We have to be more. I think it's the same in a technical field, because I think it's women are let's say, less afraid to raise their voice, because they are, most women I know at least, are really connected with their emotions, so they are able to express themselves. And I think this is very important when there's silence, a pause, you use it or you shut your mouth. And when there's a comfort zone and you want to change a thing, then you have to raise your voice. Then you have to wait for a pause and take the chance and say what you want to change. And I think in our business, in our environment, at least the most jobs I know, so technology, data, BI, informatics, all these male subjects, there are there have to be more women, and because there are there are not enough women, and the women have to express themselves in front of the majority, the male majority, and that requires a lot of courage. But I think women are they stand up for they confront themselves with their fears, and that's why I think that's a chance, but we have to take them.
That's very interesting. I like how you mentioned that it's both. It's a little bit again within you, but it's also the context. And I'd like to point out that you use the phrase "raise your voice," which I think it's fantastic in this sort of situations. It really doesn't matter who you are, right? You should raise your voice, but especially when you feel like you don't have a voice, you probably should be speaking louder, politely but louder. Anna, your field is quite male dominated. So the automotive field, is this something that has been challenging for you personally, or it's a non-issue? Do you see things changing? I imagine there were not that many women before, and I'm not sure before is 10 years or 20 or 50 years ago, but maybe things are different now. What's your take on this?
I think personally for me, I mean, I now have around 15 years of experience. I think it was sometimes, now since I'm in a management position, I can build my own organization. I can build my own climate for how we should treat each other. And I think that has been the main, I would say, the most important fact for me, because I've been able to create my own environment. In the beginning, I was not able to do that, and sometimes, I've been having jobs, various jobs, and sometimes they have been difficult for women because I was the only one, and being very in minority is a little bit challenging, I have to admit. But I really, now when I'm a manager, I realize that because of these challenges, I also create certain types of teams, which is really accepting and really kind teams. And so it's been like learning of something that I don't want to have, and I created what I want to have. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question on that. You say you've been alone in teams, right? Being the only woman, I assume, is what you mean.
Yeah.
How do you go through that? What's the advice that you would give other women who are also in the innovation field, or maybe fields that are technical or more male-oriented, and they're just one woman? What would be your advice for them?
I mean, there can be teams where you are alone and you feel kind of, I don't know, it's a great team and there's absolutely no issues if you're alone. But there can be teams where you really, feel alone. It's not only being the only woman, you really feel like you don't share the same values and there, maybe you cannot identify yourself with the team and I think that I learned a lot about myself during these times. So, I mean, they also had their purpose, but I think that finding a company where you really share the values, where you feel inspired, where you really where you can shine is really important. You should probably change context then.
So I guess what we're saying here is that yes, gender is important, but common ground is even more important. Does that make sense? What's your take on that, Nadine? I can see that you agree.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, I keep thinking about these issues every once in a while, also because one of the papers actually for my dissertations was exactly asking the question, are female entrepreneurs more risk averse than their male counterparts? So we actually did an analysis on that and compared personality traits, because this is one of the main points that women are always accused of, being more risk averse. And what we actually see that at this point, when they get to being entrepreneurs, for example, so they decide for this environment, which is tricky and complicated in itself, they actually don't differ at all, or very, very slightly only from their male counterparts. So it's a really tricky question what it is really about. And then you get into thinking, yeah, it's the common ground probably that helps, but how do you enter? Like, what is the push into that environment? I mean, I guess also if I look at the ladies here in the room, also Aletta, for example, or Isabel, who are in these large corporate organizations who have traditionally been run by men, they also made that step into there, and now they can really leverage on whatever their personality is about and basically change things or also create things accordingly. And I think the important part, of course, once you made it there, it's important to have a common ground and also to have like the company structure, the company culture, and so on and so forth around that. But I think the more crucial part is really the nudge. Like, how can you make these positions also on top of the head of everybody, not only female, not only male, whoever it might be, just for equal chances, maybe. So I think that is a very important question that would also be interesting to discuss here in this round.
Do you have a take on that, Arletta? Any particular comments that you might add, since you do work in quite a big company? Also, Isabel, actually, Siemens Healthineers, I would have to say, it's a huge company, the parent company as well. You might have some takes on that. Please feel free.
I think it's a process, and if you say or if you mean the organization, the structure of the team, how it's implemented within the company, then it's yes. Then if all the conditions, like I said, the environment is the right one, then innovation can be successful. But if there's something that's not given, then you have to fight. And if you have a team with different expertises, then it's easy. And if they have the same passion as you, then and the same mindset, then it's great and it can grow. But if it's not, and if you don't have the support of the management, for example, within such a big company, it's quite impossible, especially when you're a woman and alone. So, and I was alone. I started this team 3 years ago. And now we are 2 women, 2 proud women there fighting for innovation. And we have the expert team, the innovation board. But it's challenging every day, but it's so special and it's really fun. But you always have to convince all the comfort zone fans, and it's sometimes all. And the most people I meet and who I have to convince are men.
Of course. Well, you started 1, now you're 2, so you actually doubled up your team, which is not bad at all as an indicator. So well done. Now you just have to keep on going, basically like Corona, the incremental line, and then you'll succeed. What about you, Isabel, working for such a big company? What's your experience?
I mean, it is different. I mean, it is challenging. It has its goods and bads. I think one super good is there are other tools and other like mentors, like development courses. So there are other set of tools available, I could say it as tools, that one can really tap into. And then it's also easier to find your team. No, I really liked what Anna mentioned about building your team. And it brought me back to saying, actually, I don't have a team of myself. Let's say I belong to a team, of course, but I always say that I work in teams. And it's a team in which I reached out to different people in the organization and we work together on a project. And finding those people who one can then build up a strong enough, let's say, unit that can go through this risk-adverse environment that Nadine was mentioning. I think it's really, or through this risk environment, I think it's really the key to survive it and to go through it. And apropos risk-adverse, which I really like the point on that, if it's related to gender, I would even question if it's related to culture or to background. I sometimes think Mexicans tend to throw themselves into the deep end of the pool very easily. I'm not very good with planning sometimes, and vice versa. Germans are more like so much structured and planning, and then they're like more on the spot sometimes. But it's interesting. I would even bring the topic culture in as well.
You're absolutely right. I think the reason we think about being risk averse as a matter of gender is because I know you will see very often a male child prancing around, jumping into puddles, and the girl is wearing a dress, and sometimes it happens that someone will say, no, don't do that. Your dress needs to be, pretty. And also it's dangerous. So I think there is a matter of socialization, which is certainly a more complicated issue than what we're specifically talking about right now. But I think that's why it's relatively easy to pin women as risk averse also from a socialization point of view. But very interestingly, we have a participant, Diana, who said that she works in mining, which I find also that is, I would guess, a very male-oriented field. Well, she says it is, of course. And the one thing she says is that they've created the Women in Mining group in Colombia, which I think it's amazing. And this brings me to a point, which is, and I think someone mentioned we do this together. We have to lift each other up. I'm sorry, I can't pinpoint which one of you actually did say it, but we're stronger when we're more, and it's not about it has to be 100% women, but certainly when there are more women in leading positions, the possibilities of more women coming behind them increase. And this brings me to the mentor question, which also Isabel mentioned. And I'd like to know if any of you has had the experience of being a mentor or having a mentor. And don't get me wrong, this mentor doesn't necessarily have to be a woman, because actually men who advocate for women are the best allies, I guess, women in innovation could have. You might not agree, but I'd like to hear if you have experiences either of being a mentor or being mentored by someone, and how this has helped you in your career through innovation. Let me see I'm trying to see if someone wants to talk. It's terrible when you ask a question and no one talks, but I see Nadine turn on her microphone.
Yeah, I can go first. So yeah, actually I had the opportunity to be a mentor, and I actually was assigned by also startup founders, also initiative founders, for these kind of female networks, also to just exchange. And in the first place, I have to be honest, I was really not sure if I could take on this role. So here we go back to this, these stereotypes, can I actually do that? And can I do that perfectly? And exactly also was what Isabel mentioned earlier. So I took on that position, and it was a great honor also for me that somebody thinks that I might be able to mentor somebody else. And I met two women in this case also from two different programs actually. And we just got into chatting, and I really thrive on these meetings. Although I'm supposed to be their mentor, whatever that means, for me it's super helpful also to get that kind of perspective, because I think like with everything, and also especially for innovation, the conversation exchange with other people with different kind of backgrounds, with different kind of views, opinions, experiences is exactly the kind of common basis that we can, or that we need to, well, thrive on innovation, build innovation. So I really had the experience that my mentees, so to speak, inspired me in many things and also gave me ideas for other projects, for example, in my job. So that's my experience on that.
Thank you for sharing. It definitely goes both ways. When you have this sort of exchange, sharing experiences, it's not only the mentor who is learning, the mentee who is learning, but also the mentor. Let me just scan quickly if there's anyone else in the panel who has an experience of mentoring to share. Yes, Silvia, please.
Yeah, so it's not really mentoring. Like mentoring has this idea that one person is more experienced than the other, but I've been in circles of sort of on a collegial level, supporting each other in a way, mentoring each other or helping each other. In for example, one of the things that I did was working out loud, and for some reason, the 3 circles I've been in, every time I've been in, there were only women, and it was quite an interesting dynamic to kind of support each other and to learn from each other. So it doesn't need to have this feeling of I know more, already being in this like let's talk about it on a same level is really quite an empowering experience in itself, in a way, I find.
Silvia, you mentioned that there were only women, which is definitely interesting, and I want to add or to follow up with what might be a trick question, and that is, do you think there are more women in the areas where you've worked because we're talking about social innovation, and that can sometimes be badly described as a more soft area?
To be honest, what I see and what is paining me a little bit is that in our field, there's a lot of women, yes, but in leading positions, there is more men. So this is quite an interesting dynamic, I feel, in the social field, that there's less men, and somehow they find it their easier way up somewhere in organizations.
Yeah, this is something that I don't have the numbers right now, but it is a fact that, for example, in what's normally women-related areas like human resources, you will find more women, but the human resources director could be a man or is most often a man. And, there is a challenge in terms of how much diversity we can bring into the companies or the enterprises that we have, etc. And when we talk about diversity, it's not only about gender that we're talking, but we also is diversity a unicorn that we're just following around and never actually managing to catch? I'll say maybe Arleta can maybe talk to us about this.
Yes, I think diversity is crucial to innovation success. So you need diversity, but I have not so many experiences, or I can share with you, unfortunately, about regarding building teams. Regarding diversity, all I can say is that when we built the innovation board at Sony Music, we made sure and still making sure that there are a variety of experts that are able to enrich themselves. And it's depends on the skills, and but I don't think that's what you meant exactly, or does
Well,
this
yeah,
allow
no, I think what I meant is more so how, if any of you are managing to drive and implement diversity in your contexts, if it has happened. If it hasn't happened, that's fine. I just wanted to know if there have been specific situations. Yes, Silvia, please.
Yeah, so it's actually quite interesting. So the program I'm working on is happening for about 3 years now in Munich at Social Impact. It supports refugee and migrant entrepreneurs. And when I started, there was mainly people working there that are born in Germany, socialized in Germany, and have that kind of background. And we actually managed to bring in people that can share more of the experience also of the people that we support. So we have we have 2 people now that in both the 2 different projects that we have that actually have a different background, which we are really happy for, not only of the diversity, but also for us, because it's sometimes a bit funny to be like, I don't actually know the experience of the people that we're supporting so much because I've grown up here and haven't really moved away.
Set, right? And you were able to build up from the ground what you have now and really push. Was diversity something that was kept in mind at all? And if so, have you seen benefits from it?
Yeah, I think that it really, I mean, if you're interested or not in building a diverse team, it really comes from the upper management, the people that are building the company. And if that's communicated as a powerful way of building a company, I think it's super easy to put it through. And in our case, it was an important factor. We were really looking at making sure that we had diverse profiles in our candidate pipeline. We were, of course, not only looking at gender, we were also looking at backgrounds. Nationalities was something we were looking at, and I think that that really came from the management. I've seen other companies where the management team was also very with a very low diversity, I would say, and then you also see that the organizations that are coming out from these management teams, they are also they don't have diversity on the agenda. So the outcome will also follow that.
It definitely helps. I'm going to quote Diana again, who shared with us a very interesting fact that companies with women on their board of directors increase their innovation capacity in 83%. Maybe we should ask her the actual source. But if this is true, then we can see that we can drive change, but getting more women in leadership positions. Let me turn gears. Sorry, did someone raise their hand? Nadine,
yeah,
was it you?
sorry, yeah. Just to add that, because I mean, this is a point that we try also to convey to any kind of students or to anyone who is thinking about engaging in entrepreneurship and starting a startup. So this is maybe also what I try to at least contribute in that respect, to really raise awareness on that. And I think it's not necessarily, I think there are definitely also these discrimination points and things like that happening, obviously, but I think in the most cases the fact that Thomas is hiring another Thomas is just simply like psychology, and the way out of this is being aware of this being an unconscious bias. And this is just like the psychological fact that we are not used to females in these leadership positions, that we hardly see them anywhere. We hardly see the female founders that we have everywhere. We don't see the female soldiers that we have. So I guess it's really on changing the perspective and also challenging yourself every once in a while to break through that unconscious bias that we are also kind of below or underneath. It's kind of this spell that harms you due to socialization and also TV and pop culture and whatever. So that only if we really challenge ourselves every once in a while to break through these pictures and these stereotypes that we have, we can actually only manage to get also diversity everywhere.
Well, we have to bridge the innovation gap, right? That's what we're talking about here. I'd like to turn gears for a second because these are all very interesting questions, and I would certainly talk hours about this. But we also invited you because we want to hear about your innovation journey. So I wanted to know, and this is a question for all of you. We can go in order, or I can say who talks first and who talks next. But I really would like to know how each of you started in the field of innovation in the very many different areas. But was it happenstance? Did someone nudge you in the right direction? Was it a conscious choice, or is it something that just happened? How did you end up here? In few words, maybe we can start by Isabel. Oh yeah, you're not ready. Sorry.
It's good. It's good. I just needed to click fast. I really like that question. As you know, I started reflecting as well. Was it conscious, like when I actually was doing innovation, like calling it innovation? And I remember for me, it was logical. You know, the fact that emotions have a game in health. When I was in science school, I remember just saying, well, that's obvious. It kind of falls in there. But it didn't really come down. It took some time until I could develop further this idea and these thoughts and kind of materialize it a bit more. I'm also complemented with further studies to see, it's actually something that I see that other people don't see yet. And sometimes it happens to me still today, that I come with an idea for a project. And for me, it's logical, you know. I come forward and I present the idea and I say, well, I think we should address this in this factor in this proposal we're preparing. And everybody's kind of like, oh, that's a really cool idea. And I was thinking, well, it's kind of obvious. So I think there is a side of it, which is just when you trigger on this creativity side, it just kind of happens. And then it might get the title of innovation, basically, and it turns into that. But it is then a constant flow of creativity and innovation that happens somehow.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's very interesting. I like the idea of the flow, especially. Silvia, maybe you want to go next?
I can, yeah. I don't think I had like a moment or something. I was trying to think, where did it start? And in a way, I know I have a pain point that brings me doing this work. And this is when people say, oh, it's always been like that. It's never going to change. There's no alternative for something. And I always had very early on kind of had this idea or understanding that we are, so the social place where I'm working in, it's not like natural science where you have, this is how it is. We are creating this, so we can always change it in a way. So very early on, I had these ideas of, can we not do this differently, or is there no alternative? And this kind of quest of looking what is a good way. Yeah, so it's more of a journey for me than like a beginning point in a way.
It's a journey. It's identifying pain points. It's a quest. I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. Is that the same? Maybe I can see Nadine nodding. What about you? What's your story in that sense?
Yeah, I love the wording. So quest, I think, is really nicely described here. I think for me, it was really coincidence in the first place because I just didn't find kind of my peer group in like the normal corporate settings that I stumbled into, also from a very naive business administration student perspective, I guess. So I just started doing my own thing, and then I met people who thought alike, and suddenly you have this crowd of people who are innovative. And that is kind of, well, inspiring also to me. And this is why I decided to stick in that area, I guess, rather than I actively decided to kind of sort myself into this area. But now it's really the engine that powers me every day and gives me the fire every day to also go through, well, inconvenient situations or something, because I really enjoy working with these people, exchanging their views with my views, and also different fields. And this is, I think, the only surrounding as like a common ground. So we are innovators. We want to embrace innovation in a way, and you can have so many definitions as we've seen in the beginning, and you can have so many views and opinions on that. And just this as a topic, as a basis and a common ground to well start your day and get the energy for everything that you do is really kind of my innovation quest.
It's not always easy, is what I hear you saying, but it is a passion. And you know who I saw a lot of passion from when they were presenting themselves? Arleta, how you were speaking about what you do. I mean, it seems like you really enjoy your work and you find it something worth sharing. So what about you? How did this happen?
My way is a bit difficult to explain in only 2 or 3 sentences. I had always a passion for solving problems. I think it's the same as Silvia mentioned, and yeah, that's why I came to study communication science and media science, and that was a little bit of both. And then I combine those passions. My passion also for technology, which is why I went straight to work for agency as a technical project manager, account manager, and my passion for music. And yeah, starting with business on a business development team, I always was really in contact with innovation projects, and I was always fascinated about the normal way of creating an innovation, which is, oh, I have a problem, how can we solve it? Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's like a spell or like magic, saying, okay, let's find a way. It's possible because there is always a way to go new ways or to discover new ways and methods and innovate products to solve this problem. And I think this is why I chose to leave business development and being innovative all the time and inspire other people to do the same.
Thank you. I find the words we're using today are banging fantastic. I mean, talking about innovation as magic or a spell or a fire you feel within, it's exactly the kind of passion that we're about. And I thank you all for sharing that. It is really amazing listening to you and how you truly pioneered this in your different areas. Again, last but not least, Anna, how about you? How did this happen? I know your area might be by definition innovative, but I'm not sure. You tell us.
I mean, yeah, by the definition, but there are, of course, a lot of projects running in the companies I've been working at. And I started out as a project manager. And I moved more and more into more innovative projects, which were more challenging. I did my PhD also in really trying to make something that no one had succeeded in before. And why I chose to do that, I mean, I think it was just natural. I would say I really I thought that I could do it, and I thought I could do it well. So yeah.
So always. You did?
Yeah.
Well done. I have something in the chat, and it's from Veronica Lopez. She posted it quite a while ago, but I really wanted to read it. She says, in those situations when you're the only woman in the room or the team, I find it useful to practice the thought, I belong here. I am innovative. I should be standing. I should be raising my voice. So kudos to all of you for raising yours. We are about to finish with the time for the panel, and then we'll move on to the audience questions. So if the audience has any more questions, they can start writing them now. I will just ask one more from my side, and it has to do with the zeitgeist. It's about COVID-19 or COVID-20 or I don't even know, right? Like we're so far along this now. It's exhausting, but definitely this has changed the world in very many ways. And I wanted to ask you how if it has changed it for you in terms of your innovation journey. Maybe remote working, maybe being from home, if any of you have families, are there more challenges now that a woman innovator will encounter in this new world that we're living? Or is this new world giving us opportunities to actually do more and do different? And not everyone has to answer. As I said before, this will be my last question before we move on to the questions from the attendees. And also to the attendees, if you want to direct it to someone in particular, just mention their names. Anyone willing to answer the last question that I just asked? Yes, please, Isabel.
I mean, there is a challenge to it. I don't face many other challenges other people have, as I live alone. But when one is innovation, this human interaction, like the physical presence, is so valuable that it is then a bit of a challenge sometimes to make it through a Teams call, or through a specific time slot that you booked, because that's the time slot that there was there. So it is, I think that has been one of the challenges. I could say it's hard. And the other part is like, it has been a time of a lot of stress, and it can also then hinder this creativity and this willingness to do or to try something new as well. So the fatigue that can settle in can also be one of the challenges that can affect not only oneself, but also the team as well. So I'd say those have been most of the challenges. On the other side, it's easy now it's kind of natural to even have a web conference with a hospital sitting in Portugal, which wouldn't necessarily have been easier before.
Yeah, I mean, we have this panel today, right? Which might not have been possible before. That's one of the things that I was saying. Is there anyone else who might want to add something to what Isabel was mentioning in terms of the challenges or the opportunities that the current world situation is providing us with? Maybe Silvia, I see you, maybe.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say I have the feeling that going through this time is a very individual journey. Like, some people have lost jobs and spent the whole last year trying to find a new one. For me, for example, I had more work because a colleague was going, but we couldn't really employ someone new. So there's very different fields in that way. But what I saw in terms of the people that we support that want to build like entrepreneurs in our program, I could really see how the women that we were supporting, some of them were dropping out because they had children to look after that couldn't go to a place where the children could go to and they would have time. So I could really feel that with our sort of group of people that we're working in. On my personal side, I felt there was an opportunity opening up because so far I had always been a little bit tech averse in a way, and then I was kind of forced to go into that field and to make new things happen. But so yeah, for me, I really have seen this. It's a very individual journey where you work, what you're doing, how it affects you. But I guess in a way, what is draining is this kind of thing of like not being able to go after all the things you want to go to, which gives you energy. I think that's one thing that for all of us in one way or another has been a little bit of a challenge.
It is certainly a challenge what we're living right now. But silver linings, again, we're here and we can take questions from the public. There's one question that has 4 votes, and this one is from Anne, and it says, how can you, it's not directed to anyone in particular, how can you bring yourself and your colleagues to innovate on daily tasks that usually need to be executed quickly? Timelines are always tighter. Anyone? Maybe Isabel, I see you smiling again.
timelines is definitely a topic I wanted even to ask the panel. What was the? That was why I was smiling, because I wanted to hear the answer to the question.
Now you know you can't smile. If you smile, I will talk to you.
I should have not smiled. No. No, I think the topic about timelines is definitely, and meeting them is definitely a topic in innovation. I was just hearing this today, a talk about flowing and about when one has a very big innovation or a very big project to change, no, or it's a very big shift. It is better to break it down into small bite-sized, let's say, mini projects of it, that then the timelines can be then achieved. Otherwise, it's too big. It's not manageable, and of course, timelines, and even not the part about committing, but even the motivation in the team also falls down. So, I think being able to have any project or any innovation broken down into certain bite-sized sections is important, and I think it's even critical for us to maintain the energy and what requires to bring innovative, because it's a lot of energy. I mean, creating something new, it requires work and energy.
Yeah, that's good advice. Anna, you're in a product-oriented business. What's your take on how can we make daily tasks? How can we innovate on daily tasks when they need to be executed quickly?
I think that time is always too limited. We always need to be faster, and there's always a race going on. What I think that we should do, especially from the management side, is really believe in our innovative projects and try to protect them, even though we have too limited resources and the stress is increasing. I mean, the first thing that managers are normally doing is cutting all the innovations, and I think that we really should try to not do that and try to protect these initiatives that we have, I think this is really a management topic to save time for innovation.
A follow-up question for Arleta on this. As head of innovation at Sony Music, how do you protect innovation from being killed by lack of resources, one of them being time?
As Anna already said, time is always limited, and we don't have enough of it. So we try to convince the management of the efficiency. So with business cases or with examples, with also with other employees who are convinced about the new ideas or the innovation itself. But what is really important, or even more important, is to create a room for innovation, for creativity. Because if you have time, you can think about new ways to get your business more efficient. And this is what, in most cases, is not possible, because you're so busy doing your stuff, laying on your table, 24/7, and you don't have time to think about new ways or more efficient ways. So this is what I think it's the most important, let's say, ground or element component to bring it to the company, to the innovation culture of a company, and install it, implement it, and like a regular component, let's say, in terms of if you install bi-weekly hour when you talk, where you can talk about it, where you can say, okay, now we have 1 hour at least once a month or twice, and we can talk about innovation, we can talk about everything you need to know or you need to improve your daily business. And we are here for you. We are the experts, and tell us what you what you are searching for, let's say, solutions or ideas. So this is really the most important.
So you're basically talking about making space and holding space for innovation, which seems to be pretty critical. Otherwise, there's no place to make it happen. Yes, Isabel, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add something that came out from listening too, and just remembered. There is a book called Do Less, actually, and I really loved that book when I read it. And it is talking about how to make that space depending on the time and on the cycle and on the moment we are in. Because some days, and you can notice it, I'm sure that everybody here can notice that there's some days that you're just on fire and you can do anything in 5 minutes, like literally anything. And there are other days and other moments of the day even that you're not, you're more reflective or you're slower. So there are different tasks that can be, let's say, organized in a way that's more on where am I and where is my energy levels today, and plan also the calendar and the tasks a bit more towards that cycle of attention in which we are, which is also related to our biology as well. So that's just one thought that came back to me right now.
Thank you for sharing. Definitely working with the flow of yourself will make it easier, I think. So that's something certainly to keep in mind. I'd like to move forward to another question that was upvoted. It's also related to the COVID-19 situation. And I will read it, and I'd like to take it as an opportunity to invite a couple of the women who did not answer my very last question about COVID to actually take the word on this. And it says, do you think COVID-19 situation affected women more negatively than men? Thinking of starting, remaining a business, I guess keeping the business open in times of Corona. I'd like to ask Nadine about this because, well, you're in the entrepreneurship areas, and maybe you've seen how this has affected or not women differently, or men and women actually.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky question. I mean, I don't have any numbers to really base this on, but what I just observe and also kind of the feeling goes into the same direction that Silvia also pointed out earlier, that people or women specifically might pull back because of time restraints, because they are still the ones taking care of the children when they need to go to school, need to do homeschooling, take care of other people or family members or something. They're more likely to be the one in charge here. So the specific situation might make it even harder for them to cut out some free time to really fully engage in their entrepreneurial activities. However, there's like two upsides, I think, to the whole situation. On the one hand, there's a lot of new possibilities. And I've also come across a couple of female researchers again who have been doing their research, for example, also in this whole medical and also biological environment, so to speak. And now this is the exact opportunity to really thrive and make that point, because they see that their theoretical work can now really contribute to something major and have a major impact, especially in this situation. And not only these like top-notch medical innovations here, but also day-to-day innovations in terms of making your life easier at home, at work, making home office more enjoyable, these kind of things. And also it might even give you that certain push into that direction, that now might be exactly the time, because maybe your job is, well, you're in short time work or something like that. So you are forced to break out of your structures that you're used to, or that you have been used to. You might even have been laid off or something. So you now have the opportunity, but also the push from some other side, basically, that could be the opportunity for change and also to engage in any kind of innovation activities.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that answer. I think it really covers a lot of what the challenges and the opportunities of COVID encompass. It's not really one of the or the other, right? There's another question that's been upvoted. I'm going to read it out loud, and maybe you guys can tell me who wants to answer it. It says, do you think gender diversity in the R&D team could affect the innovation outcome? Because, for example, men and women focus on different aspects of the product? I guess maybe Anna could jump into this.
Was the question if the product is affected about from the diversity of the R&D team?
Yes, if the outcome of the product might, or the innovation outcome might be affected by diversity, since maybe, and I'm adding the maybe, men and women could focus on different aspects of the product, or maybe they have different points of view. I guess I'm adding that myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious yes on that question. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there have been cars developed from a special development teams. I know that Mercedes A-Class, it was developed from a young team, and you really saw that the car was really having another flair on it and other functions, and there also have been cars developed only from women, and you notice that they look completely different. So of course, development teams really influence how the product will look like, and what kind of functionality it will have.
That's very interesting. I would love to see any other opinions on, since this was one of our voted questions, that maybe the composition, in this case the R&D teams, but also other teams, could make something more innovative or not, even though I think we did establish that diversity was a huge component of innovation. Have you had any experiences where that happens, where you have seen that a team that's more diverse actually produces different, if not necessarily better? Maybe Isabel or Nadine might have an opinion on that, and if you don't, I will move forward. But I can see that Isabel already turned on her microphone.
Yeah, actually, in Siemens Healthineers, we have a team that's called the User Experience Team, and it's a pretty cool team. They're super diverse in many ways, and they do have this diversity embedded as well within their own team and with the teams that they usually work, right? I think in general, Siemens Healthineers has quite a culture of bringing this diversity and making it happen not only from a gender perspective, but also from cultures and from different countries. So bringing perspectives from different countries. We ourselves were in the team, we're super diverse. I mean, it's impressive. Like we have like 8 nationalities just in our tiny team, you know. So it's pretty. I don't think we have a repeated nationality within our team, and also we have a gender mix as well. And when we build our teams, for example, for a marketing campaign or for a putting together a thought leadership paper, we do ask for feedback from different teams too. So not only in the R&D, but also in the way we communicate about it. It's important always to listen to what other voices perceive of what we're showing from that innovation that was done too, and how we present that in that product or that outcome.
I think it's good to say, or maybe it's accurate to say, not good, that innovation is made up of multiple voices, is one of the takeaways that we can get here. There's one question here that I must assume is directed to Arleta, because it says, what does innovation look like in Sony Music?
How does it look? It's diverse, as I already described our team, different experts, and yeah, it's huge. It could be bigger. It can't be big enough, I think. But what does it look like? We make sure that there is space for creativity, because music is creative, artists are creative, it's our product, so it makes sense to be creative and to give space to our employees to think about what they are doing, and if they think there is a better way to do it or a more efficient way to do it. And so that's what we do. And also we want to motivate everybody, not our employees and partners and artists, but also out there, everybody who's working with us, stakeholder management, to be creative and to enrich our business with their ideas, with their creativity. And to what I said at the beginning, to leave a footprint and to make this place a better place.
That's a lofty goal, and I think one that we should all care for, right? To make things better and to improve the world that we actually live in. I think we have time for at least one more question. This one seems to be good for all of you, and I actually personally find it very interesting. Joan wants us to, or you guys, to talk about finding the funding to develop your innovations and explore bringing them to the market. And this is something that we haven't actually talked about. So maybe I would like a couple or three of you to touch this point. I think it's quite critical. Let's start maybe with Nadine, if you have something to say.
Sure. I mean, I can try to cover the entrepreneurship side as good as I can, and maybe Silvia or somebody else can kick in then here. Well, actually, there's very many initiatives in every city worldwide, I would reckon. I mean, I know the local scene in Munich specifically, but also the German scene in a broader scope. So there are actually many, many ways of finding the funding, and I would probably really see if there's any kind of local initiatives such as entrepreneurship centers, maybe from universities, that can help you with finding the fitting funding, because it's really not about getting that money coming in the first place, but really like these are the options and which one is the option that suits you. Because you could start, for example, a Kickstarter campaign, like a crowdfunding campaign. If it's a product that everybody wants to have because it's like supernatural, it might be something to solve a problem in my day-to-day COVID life. So I would say, like, speaking just out loud right now, something like a Kickstarter campaign would help here. On the other hand, there's business angels and other investment funds, also VC funds or venture capitalists, to really get you funded. However, this is only then in a later stage. If we're talking about really finding or testing out, I would probably recommend really seeing the local scene, asking the people who are active there, maybe at universities, maybe also in the company you work at. Sometimes they even have initiatives, but nobody is really aware of them because you haven't ever touched point here. And there's also local competitions. For example, here we have these business plan competitions. So you could even get funding there, or you could, participate in any kind of hackathons where you could test the first things. So it really depends. So it's really hard for me to just give you kind of this is the one answer to all of your questions. But there's a lot of opportunities, and I mean, I'm happy to offer that you reach out in the after run of this event, or also in the networking part, and we can discuss on your specific topic, which might help you out. There's also different governmental funds and so on and so forth. So I guess there's actually a lot going on that unfortunately we don't talk too much about.
Yeah. You mentioned rightly that maybe Silvia has something to add on this regard, in terms of not only how people can find funding, but how you find funding yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have too much to add. I think Nadine covered a lot of what is possible. I also would say there's a lot of places where you can look for. What one thought I had was, in terms of that's always a choice. If can you build something or not? It's not always a choice, but it depends also what you want to offer. But can you offer something small that in itself starts bringing back value? What the sort of the minimal valuable product, something small that you can bring out, or do you have like a technical thing that you actually need lots of funding? It's two very different pathways, I would say, for because if you go into a place where you know that you need other people working with you, you know that you need other people's expertise, material kind of things, then you have to kind of figure a little bit out what this all is, and then go for these where you can go for a competition where you try to win an award, or for some governmental funding, or all these things. Or if you know, okay, I have a little idea, this is mine, then just try this lean kind of startup way of do something small, go out with a little thing, and then slowly grow. It's both possible and depends on what you want to do and what you feel comfortable with in a way.
Yes, of course. Anna, you are in the startup world right now, if I'm not wrong. And what has your experience been regarding to funding? And do you have any advice for the people who are listening to us?
I think that I'm in one of the few startups which actually has a quite solid funding, since it's financed from Volkswagen. So I think that it's very rare that you build up something based on such solid company in the background.
Okay. Anyone else has anything to add regarding? Yes, Isabel, please.
I can add a couple of points. So the first one is in an internal big company. So definitely finding a sponsor and having a manager, just as Anna mentioned too, and Nadine, that protect that space for innovation is key, because funding means having the time. In such an environment, it means having the time to be able to dedicate to this project. So it's agreeing with the sponsor and the management that this will bring a benefit in the future, and it will bring a benefit in the business and also for the customers and for the end users, to then allow to have that time and that space, which is basically a funding of resources and time too, for that to happen. So that's one thing. The other side to it is also, which we have in Siemens, is having a partnering with the end customer, or with or in between customers too. I mean, not necessarily the patients, but for example, with a hospital or institution, which are our direct customers, and building innovation boards. So that is a setup we also have, which is, if from both sides there is a commitment for innovation, like an innovation board, where then there are projects that can be submitted and then can be agreed on from both parties that this would come further or not. And that's within a framework of a partnership for the long run as well. So kind of, it's another format in which, at least in a big company, that's where we're having the space for funding of innovation. And of course, then reaching out to, Nadine mentioned it as well, to, for example, European or country-specific then funding programs through the government. It's definitely a way to apply to. I think key is to show who is getting the value of what you are developing, and making sure that then you go search for certain funding that would be, or sponsors that would be passionate or excited about seeing the results of that too.
Great advice all around, and a lot of things to note down if someone is interested in following this path like you guys have done. On that note, I'll stop now with the questions from the public and go to our very last question before offering a space for networking. If you could ask the attendees today to take an action regarding women in innovation today, maybe tomorrow, because today we're going to sleep probably. But what would that action be? I'll give the word again to each of you in alphabetical order, because I would like all of you to answer this question. Anna, please.
I was thinking about what I'm doing from my side, and I think that all of us should try to do more. Participating in this panel is one thing that I easily could do, and I think we all should look at what are the low-hanging fruits and how can we push all together this topic further. Have some kind of action plan in mind on a personal level.
Let's act, right? Arleta, how about you?
Yeah, I would say the same thing in a musical way. So raise your voice, believe in yourself and stand up, and believe in yourself. That's the most important thing, because we have intuition, we have to use it, and we all know in this times that nearly everything is possible. We only have to find the right way. We have to find the right people. There are experts, and we have just to look after them, to talk to them, and share our ideas with them. Like on this panel, it's a great opportunity, and we have to go out the extra mile, out of the comfort zone, believe in ourselves, and just do it.
Make some noise. I can hear that. I really like your analogies. I'm going to take some of them with me tonight, and hopefully try to make some nice lettering that will take me to this week and the next month. And it's very, very, very good advice. How about Isabel?
I like being now after Arleta, because my first word is listen. And it's listening not only to the music, but I'd say to the inside, so to yourself, to your body, to your mind, to your emotions, and also to the outside. That's my listen word. And the other word would definitely be enjoy. Enjoy exploring new territory and have this attitude of enjoyment of this new journey or new path, as we were just discussing before.
Yeah, you bring up two very good points. I also want to send you a little heart. I can't, just so it flowed in right now. How about Nadine?
Yeah, I think it flows pretty well in that order, actually, because I think it's even taking it a step further than just listening, which is also super important. And I absolutely agree to all of my four speakers. But I think it's also really important to challenge yourself in terms of these unconscious bias topics that we discussed earlier. So is it really that I cannot do something, or is it just that I'm used to people think that I might not be fitting here? So also picking up that point that was raised in the chat somewhere earlier, really embracing on this I belong here, and really challenging this concept of the unconscious bias, and therefore just go for it and dare to start, I guess.
Great points. And to finish up and wrap, Silvia, what are your takeaways for our attendees today?
Yeah, I mean, if it was an action, I would say be courageous. And I love the saying of the secret of freedom is courage. And I had the privilege as a pretty young person. I was at a conference where people that were awarded with the alternative Peace Nobel Prize were gathered, and there was one woman, and I still remember what she said, and I want to pass that on. She said that she realized that often she gets this, her heart starts beating and she's afraid to say something, and over time she learned that instead of thinking, oh, my heart is beating, I shouldn't do it, she said, oh, this is my inner side clapping that this is what I should go for. So I would say be courageous and follow where you feel that your heart wants you to move towards.
Thank you for all those uplifting words. That's really great. I mean, I think it's a great way to finish the panel. Before Paula comes in and explains to us how the networking actually goes, I would like to once more thank you all for participating. It's been really enlightening hearing about your experiences in such diverse areas. It's really uplifting as well. And also it opens the doors to a lot of things that we normally don't think about when we think about innovation. I would like to make a quick list of words that you used to describe innovation before during different times, because I think that's a nice way of ending. You called it a spell, you called it an energy, a fire, you called it magic, a quest, a process, and overall a mindset. We need to believe that we are innovators and we can innovate. And let me recap once more your final words, not final, but final for the panel, of course. Act, speak out, listen, enjoy, challenge yourself, and be courageous. Really fantastic takeaways. Thank you again for being here. It's been a fantastic 2 hours. I've certainly enjoyed them. I hope you did as well. And our attendees, if it's possible for you to stay for the networking, please do. Otherwise, it was really a pleasure. Paula, maybe you want to take the lead now and explain how the networking goes.
Maria, I'm gonna ask you to share, please, the presentation again so the attendees can see how they're gonna join the roundtable.
Yes.
That would be great.
Can you see my screen now?
It's coming. So when we finish this session, we are gonna be in the social launch. Some of you that arrive a little bit earlier have already the opportunity to test one of the tables, but for the others, you will have the opportunity to choose between different round tables, and then you just have to click on join, and you will get like a panel where you can control your microphone and you can activate your camera. There is also the possibility to chat with between the tables, and you can change the tables. You just need to scroll down and you will see, because sometimes the tables are full. So just move to the next one and join it. There is also a possibility for a one-to-one rapid meetup. Like if there are enough participants, that will be in the upper part where you can meet someone for 5 minutes and then keep meeting a new person every time. So these are the possibilities that we have prepared for you. And we hope that you enjoy and share all your experiences and thoughts. Also, like, Maria, can you share again? Because like we always engage with the International Women's Day theme every year. And this year, you may have already seen it in social media. The theme is to choose to challenge. And I'm going to quote what they wrote. Like, a challenge word is an alert word. Individual, we are all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. We can all choose to challenge and call out gender bias and inequality. We can all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. Collectively, we can all help create an inclusive world. From challenge comes change, so let's all choose to challenge. So I will ask like all the speakers to turn the camera on and raise your hand if you are in, and all the attendees like to share that in social media if you want, because it's important that we raise awareness.
I'm trying to figure out which hand it is, but I'm not sure.
It doesn't matter. It's not like. So what we also want to share with you is like, for us, it's important that it's not only one day when we celebrate women, and it's not only 1 month, it's an everyday work. So keep celebrating women in innovation, like applaud equality for women, educate on diversity and gender equality. Remember that education is not only for teachers or parents, we are all members of families and teams, so we can contribute to that. We can build inclusive workplaces, increase the visibility of women's creative, and for women's empowerment worldwide. So the last thing that I'm going to share in the chat is like, we have prepared a mural board where you can share your LinkedIn URL in case that someone from the attendees want to connect. And there is also in the bottom a kind of poster where you can post ideas using different post-its, how we can work and help to contribute for equality. So I'm going to share it in the chat and let it for some minutes that you click there. You don't need to register. You will be just like a visitor. So share your ideas. And if you want to connect with other people, just share your LinkedIn. And in 15 seconds, I'm going to end the session and we will meet you in the social lounge. Thank you everyone for your participation, especially the panelists for sharing their journey, and everyone for being here.